Hey, it's Ryan and Jordan, and we are flying from Gulfport, Mississippi to Singapore for under $430 a person, and we're going to show you how we did it. Most YouTubers talk about how they can use miles to get cheap flights in first class or business class, but we're not here to do that. This video is geared towards the average person like us who wants to use miles to get cheap flights but doesn't want to make it their entire hobby.
So let's talk about how we ended up flying round trip halfway across the world for cheaper than most round trip flights across the US, and why we chose the flights we did. Jordan and I both have full-time jobs, but we wanted to maximize the length of time across the Pacific since we wanted to use miles for the long flight over. We're also prioritizing Bali as that was our plan for our honeymoon, but COVID got in the way of that trip until now. We have Sasquatch the cat, so someone has to watch over her during the trip, and we don't want to leave a car at the airport parking for so long either. Lastly, we want things to be reasonably priced, which is also why you're here. Which leads us into... Singapore is a large flight hub in Southeast Asia, so destination-wise, it makes sense to fly there, and it's quite cheap to fly from Singapore to Bali. Singapore Airlines turns out to be a convenient one-to-one transfer partner with both American Express and Chase Rewards programs, meaning if you earn miles through Amex membership rewards or Chase Ultimate Rewards, you can turn them into Singapore KrisFlyer miles one for one. Singapore Airlines also sells reward flights using an award chart. An award chart is a document you can find online that tells you the price of any flight in miles based on the origin and destination of travel, meaning that the price in miles is totally decoupled from the price in real money, thus not affected by changes in cash price. As with most airline mileage redemption, there are restrictions to which fare classes and how many seats are available to be booked with miles, but at least the number of miles doesn't increase when the price increases, like on most US airlines. Looking in the award chart, you can see flying from the US West Coast to Singapore one way in an economy saver fare costs 42,000 Singapore miles per person, meaning we could fly round trip for 84,000 miles per person. Since you can only transfer miles to and from accounts under your own name, I transferred my Chase miles to my Singapore KrisFlyer account and bought the flight from LAX to Singapore with $30 in fees per person, while Jordan transferred her American Express miles to her KrisFlyer account and bought the flight back to the States from Singapore to LAX with only $64 in fees per person.
Some of you might be thinking how this is a lot of miles, but these redemptions worked well for our own travel plans. So if you're going to do this for yourself, make sure the miles you redeem work well for your own travel goals.
So now that we had flights over the Pacific Ocean with miles and Singapore Airlines, we had to find a way to get to LA. Cue Jordan's Delta Platinum card that she's had for a few years now, which includes the benefit of a single-use Companion Pass award for every year that she keeps the card. A Companion Pass is basically a way for, in this case, Jordan to pay for a flight with cash, and I get to go on the same flight with her for nearly free, only paying the $5.60 each way security fee. It's a great deal. Now remember how we needed someone to watch our cat and drop us off at the airport? Jordan's mom Allie graciously offered to do both of these for us, thus we planned on flying out of New Orleans near her home on the direct flight to LAX and Delta. But do you also remember when I said that most award redemptions have restrictions? Delta is no exception, and only allows you to book certain fare classes using the Companion Pass, and unfortunately they were all sold out for New Orleans on the day we needed to fly. So we checked Gulfport, Mississippi since Allie lives there anyway, and found availability which worked out. Unfortunately it has a connection and cost a little bit more, but it all came together in the end.
Since my flight was free, the cost works out to only $335 a person.
Alright, let's recap our method. We both transferred miles from our credit cards to our Singapore KrisFlyer accounts to purchase tickets to Singapore from LA and back, and used the Delta Companion Award benefit of another credit card to get to LA, making a grand total of only 84,000 miles and $428 per person. Now it's still only flying economy, which is not the most luxurious option for a 15-hour flight, but it was extremely gentle on our budget, which allows us to do more activities while we travel and to travel longer. And with that, we've met all 5 of the goals from the beginning of the video. If you didn't notice the common thread here, this was all achievable with earning benefits through accumulating rewards by using credit cards in a responsible way that has not hurt our credit scores. There's quite a few resources for getting started, and we've linked some of our favorites in the description below, so check those out if you want to get started using credit cards to travel like us.
Alright, maybe we should sleep. We've been talking to y'all for almost the entire flight. Good night!
Alright folks, we are now starting our initial descent.